Every realm emanates from him. Again, each of us basically has our origin from the Father. He brings us uh, to birth, if you will, again. In a sense, you could say that we are born again, born of the flesh and then born of the Spirit. And they know that they've come out of him like children who are from someone who's completely mature. In other words, the time is right. Um, the time for us to come forth basically has come about, and we understand that everything that's been spoken about us, everything that's been prophesied of us, is basically written on the pages of eternity. It was already written in His Word, and everything comes to fruition in its own time. So we understand the mature nature of the Word. That is to say, the end is called from the beginning. They knew that they hadn't yet received a form or a name. That is to say, when you come to discover that you have a name and that you're basically given a form, that is to say, the form of the third generation, that you are named as his children, that you're named as his elect or whatever, you realize that you didn't recognize that you had that until you were until you realized it. So you didn't know it till you knew it, let's say. So you recognize that you hadn't yet received it after you received it. The Father gives birth to each one. Again, this is each of us, our own calling. The Father is very personal as far as the way each one of our lives is ordered and how each one of us comes into being. So yeah, there's each one of us on the individual level as well as the corporate level. Even though we are His children, we are the elect. We are also individually His. Then, when they do receive form from His knowledge, that is to say, coming to understand His truth, then we can, again, like it says in the book of Enoch, the elect will begin to walk with the elect, that we sort of become a formation, if you will. We become a body, if you will. Although they're really within him, they don't know him. That is to say, until he reveals himself to us, we are within his plan, just as the elect are within the word. Everything was contained prophetically within the word to come about when the time was right, when the time had matured, so to speak, because his word had come to fruition at that time. But the Father is complete, knowing every realm or every eon or every one of us that is within him. So each one of us has a purpose. Each one of us has come from that which is complete, the completeness, the maturity, if you will. If he wants to, he reveals whomever he wants, giving them a form and giving them a name. Again, we take the form of a final generation. We are named in the book. We are spoken of as the children, the future generation, those who are going to be around at the time of the wicked, the removal of the wicked and the ungodly. He gives a name to them and causes those to come into being before they came into being, who before they came into being are ignorant of the one who made them. So again, Thomas, one of the logians in the Gospel, Thomas says, "Blessed is he who came into being before he came into being." Um, the idea is that we were always within him. We were always spoken of. We were always prophesied of, and we were always meant to be. And so he goes on to explain, I'm not saying then that those who haven't yet come into being are nothing, but they exist in the one who will want them to come into being when he wants, like a later time. So we are destined. So again, those whom he foreknew, he also predestined, etc. Before everything is revealed, he knows what he will produce. But the fruit, which he hasn't yet revealed, doesn't yet know anything, nor does it do anything. Because again, what we know is the thing that transforms us into his children. We become his children by being essentially called into being and given a form, and we don't know this until it happens. Nor can we do anything to speed up the process or to contribute until we receive that knowledge, until we receive that form, until we become his children, until we come into being. So until then, again, whoever doesn't gather with me only scatters. So again, we can't do anything for his kingdom until we receive this knowledge, because that's the thing that brings it to completion. In addition, every realm, which is itself in the Father, is from the one who exists, who establishes them from what doesn't exist. That is to say, there's no real structure in Christendom. There's no real um, expectation, if you will, in Christendom that this will come about because again, it comes about sort of as a surprise, as something that sort of sprung up. Again, you see this sort of peppered throughout the New Testament. You know, I will give you a mouth and a wisdom that no one will be able to gainsay or whatever. The idea is that don't worry about what you will say. What you will say will come to you. So again, the knowledge is going to seemingly come out of nowhere. And again, if you begin to see the pattern here, if you begin to recognize your place in it, you'll recognize how this, in a sense, apparently comes out of nowhere. But of course, it's written throughout every page and every line of the canonical scriptures, as well as the non-canonical scriptures. So when you can put the two together, you can marry the two. Uh, and for those who have no root, have no fruit either. Again, because you're rooted in the truth. In other words, you're rooted in the Father. You're rooted in the mysteries that are planted. Um, then you can bear fruit. But until you understand that there are mysteries to be found and that there are things to be unlocked, you can't produce the actual fruit. But as for those who bear no fruit, they think to themselves, I've come into being. But they'll dissolve by themselves. Why? Well, everything becomes dissolute. Everything dissolves because it's founded on partial information. It's founded on the fleshly level of understanding, what human beings have taught, what human beings have understood as the truth, with an incomplete understanding of the scriptures. So they think that they've come into being. Again, this is them taking the name on loan or taking the name, if you will, in vain. I mean, to no purpose. That is to say, they have to pay it back. The people who call themselves Christians today are ignorant of the mystery. Um, but they think that they have it. So they think, hey, I've come into being. But again, once you recognize that everything, I mean, literally everything, is based on incomplete information because the truth hadn't yet been revealed, because it'll all be revealed, if you will, when he wants, at the right time, when everything has come to a head, when the time is right. So it says, because of this, those who didn't exist at all won't ever exist. Again, because those who didn't exist at all, that is to say, those who say they came into being, um, but in fact will dissolve, uh, they will never come into being because the knowledge upon which everything that they've based what they teach and believe on is basically dissolved and disappears.